Voodoo Live.
Well, we are happy to report that we have a brand new study back from the field, and we're getting ready to get to deliver to our broadcast clients what we're referring to as ratings prospect number 22. Oh my
22.
goodness, it's amazing how much stuff we've got done. But we didn't want to wait. We have enough data now to share what I think is an important thing for anybody who does digital advertising. You may be familiar with the purchase funnel. That is sort of the three stages that with digital marketing we can manipulate. And the goal is obviously to get somebody to commit, to make a purchase or reach an endpoint objective of a digital media campaign. And there's generally three stages, and some are more important for different brands than others. But everyone needs to be known and trusted. So generating brand awareness, lots of reach and frequency, is sort of the primary first objective, the first tier. And then once you've got that trust, you try to build a relationship, whether that's to get people into your email database or your text database, or to use retargeting, which is stalking people after they visited your website. Or perhaps you have learned how to ingest a database into any of the 6 walled gardens that we're going to look at today. That's where you take and build what's called a custom or tailored audience and deliver ads on social media to people you already have a relationship with. That's the consideration stage. And finally, and of course, we're all in it to get paid our weekly salaries or our commissions or our profits if we're business owners. And the net objective then is bingo, to buy. Right. So we did a study where we attempted to, suss out these 3 tiers, Lee, and you've got the data.
Yeah, and it's a sample of 2,500 people across the nation, 14 to 54 years old. Now, we end at 54 years old, not because buying power stops at age 55, but for our media partners, if you're trying to sell advertising, you're mostly focused on people under 55. So we stop our sample at age 55. And we go down to 14. Most media properties are starting their considerations at 18 or 25 these days. But we go down even younger and go down as low as we can before we have to start getting parental permission. So that's age 14. And so we're able to get parts of Gen Z and then parts of Gen X and the entirety of the millennial generation in between. So we've got 14 to 26 is represented for Gen Z, 44 to 54s rather for Gen X, and in the middle, the millennials, 27 now to 43, that make up the plurality of this sample. 2 and 5 are millennials here.
So for this, go ahead, sorry, Lee.
And our point really here is to start with just where do they pay attention, I should say, to ads?
Yep. And what I was going to mention before I show the data on the first slide is that we limited this to the walled gardens. So the destination platforms where you have a unique login, and we took the top 6. Mm-hmm. And so this is our traditional question where we're asking people how often they pay attention to advertising on these various platforms, and we take the scale of 1 to 6 and we package up what we call the top 2 box, right? The people who vote a 5 or a 6. That is, they pay attention to ads a lot. Now, 2/3 of the folks are off the table, but it's the rest that are actually engaging in advertising that interest us.
Right. And our experience for asking this question a number of times, this question group, says that top 2 box grouping really does connect to the people who are like more attuned to whatever that message is. They really are paying attention to what they're hearing or seeing advertised through these channels. So at the top, you've got Google. And yes, of course, we all pay attention to the things we see on that platform. And you'll see different demographic performance as you look across the columns of the 3 generations, the 14 to 26s, the 27 to 43s, and the 44 to 54s at Gen X. So TikTok really does have an impact for Gen Z. It's no bigger than YouTube, but it's still a massive impact as it applies to Gen Z. Gen X, quite different. Google's on top, where among millennials in the middle, you'll see at the head is Google, and then a couple of points behind, you've got YouTube and then Facebook.
And Facebook, of course, is a duopoly partnered with Instagram. And usually when one is advertising, you're advertising on both. So the net potential to drive brand awareness in terms of a walled garden platform ad buy It's really quite something. And I guess soon there will be an extra element to
Yeah,
Facebook.
Threads.
Taking ads now. Threads. Yep. 100 million people or something, or users in what, about a week?
Yeah, less than. And we're working hard right now on getting something quick into the field that we can hopefully pair along with the findings that we'll be releasing from this study eventually, so that we have some number. We didn't know Threads was coming, but here it is.
Yeah, I think we put it out the weekend that Threads was released, and at the end of June, early July. All right, so let's move on down the funnel now to the next stage, and this we'll call the consideration stage. Now, we actually have a fairly high bar for consideration, and some would argue that if I look at the ad and I read it and I just think about it, I'm still, a prospect for being considered, someone who's considering a purchase. But we make the buy a little higher in that we're looking for some type of action. Could be a like or a share on social media. It could be going to a Reddit to read a review about the product. It could be signing up for the email database to get the the BOGO or the discount codes. Right. Some kind of action that proves to us that you are in that kind of, I don't know if I'm going to do it. What do you got to put me over the top? And that's why these sorts of offers and using things like retargeting are so important, because this is the people that just need to get pushed over the edge. And it's pretty interesting. It's a fairly substantial percentage of the overall pool of people that are paying attention to advertising.
Yeah, and if you look kind of there in the middle at the what I think of as the kind of the OG digital generation, those who are digital natives, the millennials, 29% say that they are in this consideration stage, at least, or have been in the consideration stage for something they saw advertised on Facebook. That's massive. It's a massive number. And I think it's really, we don't have the comparative data the historical data to compare, but my feeling is that that's gotten much better in the past year as Facebook has tweaked its algorithm so that we're seeing more advertising, more different kind of products in news feeds. Just a point behind it among millennials, of course, you've got Google, and that's the top for the Gen Xers, of course.
Let me bring this back. And I think the final thing that we need to look at here is this is where TikTok begins to separate itself in Gen Z. This is the coming feature attraction, so to speak.
Right. And I don't, there are some marketers that I've talked to who believe that Gen Zs will start to emulate older generations as they age. And I just don't think that's going to be the case. I think they are going to be uniquely them as they age in. And so I think we're going to be seeing TikTok an increasing portion of this media pie.
Yeah, this generation may not have yet the same buying power as millennial or Gen X, but when we're looking at a fairly significant, a multi-double-digit percentage point lead over the next best brand, that is simply a force to be reckoned with. All right, so now it's time for the money shot. The percentage in our sample that pay attention, consider, nope, these are the people who actually get to yes and make a purchase. So this would, I think, speak to how efficient each of these platforms are at driving sales. Right. And this is, I guess, the best way we know to do it, short of asking people for the receipt.
Right. I mean, John Wanamaker, I think it was quoted as saying, I know that half of my advertising money is wasted. I just don't know which half. So here you start to get the idea of which of these platforms will get most likely to yes. And of course, it depends on who you're trying to get a yes from, whose decision is most important to you. If it's a Gen Z, of course, TikTok stands in the number one spot here, followed closely by YouTube, but TikTok does absolutely raise the bar here. Millennials, you got some options, but Facebook would be the biggest one there and the biggest among Gen Xers as well.
It's the fall of Moneyball for our radio clients. We're doing this study in order to help our people in the broadcast industry find that extra little thing that could make a 1/10 of a rating point difference, which if you've been following New Voodoo Lives for the past 6 months or so, that's hundreds of thousands in revenue, and it's what can make or break you as the industry plays musical chairs, continues to consolidate. And to that end, These studies are our marketing, but we're going to do it a little differently this time around. Instead of a big cattle call series of webinars where you're forced to view the data when it's convenient for us, we're going to flip the script. I think, Lee, you're going to allow us to chunk this stuff up, and we're going to give it out in various upcoming New Voodoo Lives.
Absolutely. But still, with that said, if you would like a free showing of this for the people on your team, we can absolutely arrange that for you. We'd absolutely take our time to meet with you. Just an email to tellmemore@newvoodoo.com would get that started for us.
We'll be doing private presentations that are going to be more relevant to people in the radio industry first. That'll happen later in July and into August. But by September, we'll be ready to share the data without all the radio jargon packaged up for anybody who needs to make a buck off digital advertising. And the best way to reach you, Lee?
Is Lee, Leigh, @newvoodoo.com, or an email to tellmemore@newvoodoo.com. We'll get you attention instantly from whoever's most available at that moment.
And we'll see you soon.
New Voodoo builds digital products and conducts research and marketing campaigns for clients.
It's easy to get in touch. Drop us a line at tellmemore@newvoodoo.com.